By 8 years old, I started stepping in front of him. 18 broken noses later, about 17 years old, he was finally arrested for attempted murder of me and my mom. They evicted me and I didn't have anywhere to go, so I slept on the beach. So now I'm a homeless guy. And up until that point, I was blaming literally everybody for why I was homeless. And it shifted me. I'm exactly where my decisions have put me. The only reason why you're going through this brain surgery that we call owning a business is so that someday you don't have to answer to anybody else, be neighbors with somebody else that you don't want to be, and you have choice. We are actually slaves until we're not, because we have to show up and make that money to pay our house bill. And all we're trying to do with a business, the only outcome is to get rid of the have to. That's it.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Hey, blue-collar millionaires. I'm back. This is my buddy, Jason Sisneros, and he's going to talk about what he's done. He's got a incredible story. He and I did a Zoom. I don't know, we probably set up for a 30-minute Zoom, and it was 2 hours later, we were still talking. So I wanted to kind of capture some of this, talk about how he can help blue collar guys become deca millionaires, 10 million and up. That's what we want to talk about. Being a millionaire is not a big deal anymore. But he's done it all. He's walked the walk. He's a great guy. He's connected to a good friend of mine in the group, John Federa. So we really connected. And Jason, thanks for coming on and kind of give us some background about what you've been doing over the last couple decades and where you're at now.
I love that. And thanks for having me on, brother. It's interesting because Jonathan Federa, who you mentioned that introduced us, and everybody since, like, being connected to you, I knew it was going to be a golden introduction, because the way that I met him wasn't, hey, I'm doing business with you, or hey, you're doing business with me. He called me up. We were doing a fundraiser. For the last 10 years, I've been doing undercover rescues of kids in the sex trade. And we were doing a fundraiser for a new vehicle that we needed. And he reached out of the blue and say, hey, me and my buddies, we said, we put a bunch of money aside to help in different things that we see. And I'm like, dude, you're just out of the blue. Like, I don't know you, right? We don't know each other.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but we saw your story and we want to help. And their money got us over the top for this vehicle that we needed for a bunch of rescues that we do. And so that's how my relationship started with Jonathan. And that was, I don't know, it's been a decade now that we've known each other, and he's golden. And so then he introduced me to you. And like you said, we could have gone for 4 hours, right? Because I looked down and it was like 2 hours, and we're both like, oh, our wives, our kids, like, we have lives. Let's get back to them.
We got to do some stuff today.
We got to do some stuff. But I'll tell you, my story, I think, is very similar to a lot of people. I'll tell it, but it's of zero value unless you can see yourself in it. And that's what I know about people that own their own businesses, is we start these things and we have varying levels of success. But I started my adopted father. I'll go back a little ways, but to tell you about my childhood. I was adopted at 6 years old. My adopted father was broke the law all over the place, ran with motorcycle gangs, did all this kind of stuff, and was very abusive to my mom. And so by 8 years old, I started stepping in front of him. 18 broken noses later, about 17 years old, he was finally arrested for attempted murder of me and my mom. And I only tell that because we do what we know, right? When he left, it's like we think, oh, well, once that protagonist gets taken out of our life, now all of a sudden my life is different. Well, it wasn't, because I was raised at 12 years old. I was delivering drugs. At 16 years old, I was, been fighting a full grown adult. So I became a collector. And, and so I was on the same path. And since then, everybody that I knew back in those days has been, including my little brother, been in prison or dead. And, if it wasn't for mentors, and that's why I love and respect what you do so much, you're mentoring people. If it wasn't for mentors that stepped into my life, I would have gone down that same path. I was headed straight for it. And the thing that my mentor allowed, which is why your show exists, why I think your page is so popular, is that it's sometimes it's a perspective shift. It's not like a tactical approach to something. It's a thought process that changes where you go, oh, I don't have to be that way anymore because there's somebody that I can watch on this screen that has done what I'm trying to do. And I can go do that too, because there's nothing really special about this person that's on that stage or on that screen or in that book. And so that's where I turned my life around. And then I went from that. My very first legitimate job was hand peeling logs for my brother-in-law at the time for $6 an hour. And I got a big raise. I went to work for my father-in-law at the time, and he ran a mine up in Crested Butte, and I was working in that mine 3 levels deep one day, and I'm like, I'm down here shoveling literally shit, for $8 an hour, and I'm like, people used to fear me, like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this crap work. And so I started thinking while I was down there in that dark pit, I was like, I think I need to learn a trade. And luckily, there was somebody that was doing floor covering that I was able to go on as an apprentice and started learning that business that taught me a trade, which was very, very, it's a hard business. I think all trades really are. And then I got the opportunity to buy a flooring business. And I bought that business. I was doing during the week. How I bought it was, first off, the owner thought that he was going to go bankrupt and he would bring me on and have somebody to blame it on. I was
Yeah.
too dumb. I was too dumb to realize that. I was like, yeah, at 20, whatever, 22 years old, 23 years old. Yeah, of course this guy wants me to be his business partner. you know. So so we put together a buyout of the business. It took me 5 years. During the week, I would sell, which I was very good at. And then on the weekends, I would go install carpet, hardwood, tile, whatever it was to make my payment on the business. And a lot of this, again, to go back to the examples for business owners, I was very good at selling. And so as the economy would get better, my business would grow. I knew nothing else about business, onboarding and finance and all of the things that you need to. I knew nothing about it, but I could outsell my problems. And so when the economy took a little downturn, and by the way, along the way, and I know you can identify with this, I got what was called entrepreneurial ADD. I was like, oh, I'm doing good with this business. Let me go to a business I know nothing about and buy a little gym with my partner. Right. And then so we bought a gym. And then I'm like, well, let me go into another industry I know nothing about, which was real estate. And so now I have these two businesses sucking out all the value of my business that was doing well. Then the economy tanks. First one goes out of business, and it was like three right in a row dominoes. I went out of business, bankrupt 3 times with those businesses. And so I learned a lot during that process. Very, very painful. People don't understand that haven't gone bankrupt. They don't understand the pain of it. It took me 6 years to get back to being worth $0. I remember the day. Like, oh, I'm worth $0 today. I had a big party. I was like, because I was $2 million in debt and having all the psychological stuff. So that's kind of where I got my start along the way. And so from that point forward, I ended up, losing literally everything. I went through a divorce, had some really bad times. Ended up, that's where my paths crossed with Tony Robbins. And
Well,
through a week, go ahead.
I wanted just to think because we had the same thing. I had the same thing in 2008, and it took me to like 2013 to get fully out of that. Same thing.
Yeah.
I remember the day. I remember the last payment, but my personality had changed it over that time. I was like, I was in a dark time. I
Yeah.
was antisocial. I didn't want to joke around. All I thought about was
Yeah.
stress. People don't understand how tough that is and how much. That's why I wrote a post recently about bodies. Like
Mm.
even when you exit and you do other things, there's bodies all over the place. And how I want young guys to not have that. those bodies could be alcoholism,
Yeah.
divorce, massive stress. So I don't want to cut you off, but tell us now about the Tony Robbins thing. It's kind of incredible because everybody loves Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, that's where I was. Like when I crossed his paths, this was in Colorado, and it was one night, middle of the night, because like the entire town knew what was going on. My wife, is messing around on me, and we're going through a divorce, and and just on and on. I stole a U-Haul, packed up everything that I could in my house, and went to California. And along the way,
Right.
I'm like having panic attacks. So, like you said, like just all these things. I felt like I
Yeah.
was having a heart attack every 2 seconds, and the only thing I could do was sell. And so if I would sit down in a one-on-one sales situation, I would have a panic attack and need to go to the hospital. So I could not earn. And so I think I had $4,000 or $5,000 in my pocket when I went to California, got a little place to rent, started selling stuff, and eventually they evicted me and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I slept on the beach. So now I'm a homeless guy. Right now I'm a homeless guy going, I don't know how I ended up in this place, but it was during that period where I went to a homeless shelter, and the guy that was running it, Pastor Ricky, who's still my friend to this day, he pulled out a couple of books. He gave me the Bible, and I threw it right back at him. I'm like, because I was pissed at God at the time. Like literally, my wife cheated on me while I was at a Promise Keepers event, trying to be a good Christian, be a good father. And so I was like, yeah, you can keep that. And then he gave me Tony Robbins' book, which was this big, thick Awaken the Giant Within book, right?
Yeah.
And so I would read that on the beach while I'm begging for food and going to this fish restaurant on the pier down there. And this was in San Juan Capistrano, California. And so anyway, so I got done reading the book, and it got me to a perspective shift. It didn't change my life immediately, but it was a perspective shift, because what I got out of that 17 million page book was, it's in your moments of decision where your destiny is shaped. And up until that point, I was blaming literally everybody for why I was homeless. I was blaming my ex. I was blaming my adopted father. I was blaming the government. I was blaming everything, like poor me. And it shifted me. And it was an alone shift where it wasn't somebody forcing the thought on me. It was a shift going, oh, I'm exactly where my decisions have put me. It's nobody else's fault.
Tough realization for all of us at some time.
It was tough. But it shifted my mindset. And then a couple of weeks later, I was walking down the street, and I saw this yellow poster board with this guy that had teeth the size of picket fences, right? Which was Tony. There was a picture of Tony on this yellow poster board. Tony. And underneath of it, it said, unleash the power within, Tony's live event. It was like $300, and $300 could have been 3 million to me at the time. I didn't have it. So I went back down to the beach, and I knew a bunch of the guys that were selling weed. And I said, what do you want for what you have? I'll go sell it. And anything above that I get to keep. So I was consigning marijuana on the beach.
Making deals.
So I got put together enough money to go to Tony's event. Long story, try to be really short about it, but I got to meet Tony. They do that sort of like the altar call at the end to come buy the big package, and they did that whole thing, and they're like, come meet Tony Robbins. If you buy this right today, I had a bunch of, this was back in the day, you'll know, cause you're as old as I am. Right. But when they would do the credit cards thing, it wasn't immediate like they have today. It was an impression.
Yep.
And so
they had to go collect on it later.
Put it all on this credit card. Right. And I got to go up on stage. I got to shake Tony's hand. And I told him one thing. I said, I'm going to pay you back for this one day. I knew he had changed my life. I knew he had changed it. Not immediately, but my mindset, the shifts, all the things that I got from him. And he leaned back with his big ass hand that his fingers go up to my elbow, and he said, I believe you. And I got a job. I left there. I went up and down the car row there, and I started at, I think it was Mercedes. They laughed me out. They're like, get out of here. You look like a hobo. Next to them was BMW. Get out of here. You look like a hobo. Then you go across the bridge, and you've got San Juan Capistrano Ford. And they hired me on the spot. because people don't buy Fords in Southern California. So if you could fog a mirror, they would hire you.
Yeah.
So I went to work for them, started to scrap my way out of it, and I started calling Tony's office for a job. And they had two jobs available: internal sales, which was less than I was making, and then they had this job called FSR, which was you would go into a city ahead of Tony and do speeches to sell tickets to fill his events. And I didn't want that job because I was deathly afraid of being a public speaker. And so, you know, went back and forth, back and forth. Well, one of the times I kept calling, one of the times I called, they're like, yeah, those are the only two jobs we have. But by the way, we have a credit card of yours that bounced for the event. And I'm like, shit. Luckily enough, I was able to pay for it. The very first part of Mastery University was something called Health Mastery at the time, which was in Vieques, Puerto Rico. I fly to Puerto Rico for this event. I'm day 2. We're going to a little dinner sit down. I'm sitting at one side of the table, and Lauren Slocum at the time, Lauren LaHave now, who was the wife of his first employee, was doing the event. And she said, hey, tell me about your story. And I was like, you know, I told her everything that was going on. And I said, I really want to go to work for Tony. And so she goes, just a second, picks up the phone. Yeah, hey, Tony, I got this kid sitting here, blah, 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 blah. He really wants a job. Okay. Covers the phone and goes, he's got a speaking job for you, and you're going to be auditioning. They're going to send you a script, and you're going to be auditioning in 2 weeks. I'm like waving her off. No, I don't want to speak. I'm deathly afraid of speaking. And she looks me dead in the eyes. Kevin, I'm going to cuss on your podcast just a little bit. She looked me dead in the eyes and she goes, don't be a pussy, Jason. Do you want the job or not? And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I want the job.
Yeah.
And immediately after I said it, I'm like, what did I just do? So I go to this thing and this interview, and it was 2 weeks later. I went and bought myself the ugliest pea green suit off the rack. I look like like a moron walking in there in this boxy suit. And I'm the last person on the agenda because there's 3 or 4 other people ahead of me that are auditioning for the show or for this position. I see this woman go up on stage. She's gorgeous, custom fit, clothes. She goes through the script and she's crying on cue. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So then another buddy of mine goes across, and he's literally acted on the show ER across from George Clooney. Good looking dude, like custom suit, nice tan, perfect hair. And he's going across the stage and he's crying on cue. He's since become one of my very good friends, but I'm like, I don't have no idea what I'm doing here, and I was sitting in the very last seat, really close to the door. And I almost ran out, Kevin. I almost left because I'm like, there's no reason why I'm here. So I go up on stage, my brain goes out the door, but I go up on stage and I completely forgot the script. Like the first line was, hi, my name is Jason Sisneros with the Anthony Robbins companies. And I couldn't remember it. And so finally I'm like there and I see Tony kind of cock his head like, are you okay, dude? And I'm like, look, Tony, I've completely forgotten the script, but let me tell you what your event meant to my life. It changed this and did this. And I just kind of off out of my own heart, like how I knew he had shifted my life. By the time he's like, if you ever seen Tony cry, he rubs his eyes like this. He's crying. His staff are crying. I'm crying. Everybody's crying. And he's like, you got the job, come down, give me a hug. So I got the job, and that led to an incredible 4 years that was, full of a lot of people who go to work for Tony, like the prestige of it. I looked at it a completely different way. He had opened doors that I never would have been able to open, just like you have for a lot of people that are in your group, right? We can open doors because of the relationships. And so I took that 4 years with him to learn the craft of speaking, number one, but also to interview as many business owners as I could, because I had my notes from my 3 bankruptcies. And I would take them and I would be like, oh, I'm at this dinner with Tony. I'm never going to be able to see this guy again. And I would say, hey, if you give me 15 minutes, I'll clean your toilets. I'll make you dinner, like whatever it is. But I want to ask you some questions. And they would graciously give me their time, and they would tell me what they would have done in those scenarios. So I leave Tony after 4 years, not only with an incredible speaking ability, but also with this brand new 3 books of playbooks for me how to actually do business. And as I was leaving Tony, a friend of mine called me up and he said, "Hey, Jason, I'm going through something that you did very similarly. Can you come and help me?" He's like, "I'll pay you some money, and anything that we do up top, you'll get a piece of." And I was like, "That's a brilliant business model." I went and helped him and started my career, which I didn't know existed, called a turnaround specialist. And then went from turnaround specialist to, I was like making everybody else rich. I started to buy my own companies and built that up into 35 firms at 35 businesses that I owned at one time at the height of what I was doing, and became a private equity firm, which I didn't know what that meant. But that was the kind of arc. And there's a little thing I want to talk about that happened in between those 2 items. I did build a company one of the first ones that I started when I went from turnaround to buying my first businesses. And I got these 3 guys that called me, and there were 3 guys that worked with 3 different private equity firms that were coming together to do deals themselves. And they wanted to buy one of my companies. And so the first 3, everybody can identify with this. I call those, if the shift, like everybody watching this, if you understand this is one of those perspective shifts that'll change your life. Everybody exits. There's people that out there, I'm never going to exit. But everybody exits. And that could be death. That could be a divorce. That could be, a dissolution of a partnership. That could be just straight up running out of money. And 95% of companies end up with an involuntary exit. And so those were my first 3. I went bankrupt. The second time was these 3 guys coming together. I was really good at that business. I knew nothing about how to sell my company, not less than 0. And they knew that. And what they count on, and this is for everybody watching, what they count on is arrogance, ignorance, impatience, and the wrong team being around the person that they're going to buy the business from, because they'll take advantage of all of those. And they did that with me. But if you think about it, arrogance, ignorance, impatience, it is like the cornerstone of how we build a business in the first place.
Yeah.
And they count on us not learning a new skill set. They count on us taking that through. And of course, a wrong team, it's generally speaking, when we build that first business, we have the wrong team. You and I were speaking about it before we went live here. Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, after they kicked my ass in that deal, they paid me half of what it was worth. I got about $4 million out of the deal. Not nothing, but I should have gotten probably 7.5. And then it took me 3 years to get it. And I had to step back in 3 or 4 times to save the deal, or else I wouldn't have got paid. So I worked for 3 years to be able to get paid the small amount that I did get. But instead of getting mad, I was like, what can I learn from this? And so I made these 3 guys my friends, and I learned from them. And now I've got relationships with over 250 private equity firms. And I said, how do you buy businesses? And I learned that they have a code of exactly how they buy businesses. And so I was like, okay, cool. Now, as I'm buying businesses, I flipped what they took and I made it my seller's code. And I started to build businesses according to what they did, not what we typically do, how they buy businesses. I built it exactly how they buy businesses. That led to February 2019, where I had a bunch of business. I had 29 businesses at the time. I sold 26 of them all at once. And I got all the money. I had no investors, no debt, no partners, mainly because nobody would lend me money in the beginning. I wouldn't have lent me money. I'm not offended by that, but, and,
worked out well.
Yeah. And 90 days worth of due diligence. And, because I knew exactly how they were going to buy it. It was the easiest sale that they'd had. And so that's kind of where, that's the journey of what I did. And then, the last little short piece of it is, I've been doing rescues of kids in the undercover sex trade for the last 10 years. And I thought that's what I was going to do. I now have, money that is generational, and I could go do these things. 2020 happened. I saw all of my family, who small and mid-sized business owners, get called non-essential. And I had 2 phone calls back to back where 2 of my friends committed suicide because they couldn't make payroll and their businesses were going out of business and all these things. And I happened to be in this weird position where I was traveling around talking about raising money for sex trafficking and the rescues that we were doing. And I ended up on stage with people like General Flynn and Eric Trump and the My Pillow guy and RFK Jr. And when I started asking them because they're politically adept. I'm like, where is the help? How are you calling us non-essential? We're $17 trillion of the economy, 60% of the hiring, and 90% of the non-governmental jobs. How is that non-essential? And who is going to stand up and who's going to step around for that? Found out nobody does. Nobody ever really has. And that's the leading indicator of a country in decline is when the small and mid-sized business owners get overtaxed, overburdened, and don't get any value given to them. That's when I decided to start the owner syndicate, which is going to be a $2 billion fund to go have that fight for our family. And how we decided, reverse engineered. And I said, we're going to start this company called Built to Exit, which was an extension of a 10-year consulting firm that I owned. There's one of them that I didn't sell. We transformed it into specifically helping businesses prep up for a $30 to $60 million sale through acquisitions or through getting better at what they do. Just basically following my blueprint that I did for myself, and to help 600 business owners in the next 5 years sell to become free so that they could either enter the fight or go on to what's next for them. That's how Built to Exit came about. Long story. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. There's so many things to go on here. I just want to touch on a couple things I think the number one thing, like all the things, is the borrowed belief. When you have that, once you see something you didn't see before through somebody that you've met and know and start to consider your friend and you watch them, it's impossible to get it out of your head. So everybody knows, the 5 people around you. That's true. But you had this massive exit. If somebody's talking to 3 or 4 or 5 people like you all the time, all they think about is that exit now. They don't think about 3 million.
Yeah.
10 million's like, why am I thinking about 10 million? Their brain gets rewired to think of how to do those things. Incredible. I love what you were saying about, I always say the same thing. Everybody exits. Jason, every business we had that didn't do well or did well, but didn't take off how we wanted to, we've exited all of them. We just might not have had a sit down and got a wire or a check back in the day. Right? I had some where I got checks and some where it just didn't turn out how I wanted. You exit. Nobody knows, but you exited. Maybe with some credit card debt, maybe some whatever it is. Why? So that's kind of what I bought the whole group. I want guys to exit for where they're down in Florida or wherever, and they're 58 years old and they do whatever they want every day. Because this is tough business. We know the levels of stress. I'm not saying W-2s aren't stressful, but this is a whole nother level. I don't want people wait until they're 64 years old or whatever. Like, be done at 50. If you want to be, keep doing it like we are. But the things you were saying, the reasons why they can take advantage of you, man, that hit home, because that was me for so many. Arrogant, ignorant on things. You can't tell anyone anything. It's kind of how we're wired and built. And like you said, that's how we build stuff.
Yes.
But then it hurts you on the other side. I talk to guys in my DMs all the time. They have those characteristics.
Yeah.
They put it in their mind. My business is worth this. I know it's worth 4. It's not worth 4. It's not even close.
No.
I could talk to you and Jason could help you get it to be way more than 4. Do you want to do that? Do you want to take a step back, humble yourself, realize, hey, it's not worth anywhere near 4 or 8 or whatever you want to tell yourself. Just because your buddy sold an HVAC business for 27 million doesn't mean, well, mine's probably worth 15 then. That's not how it works. No. You got no idea what he was presenting. And then the whole idea of reverse engineering it, because on some level, that's what I did too. A few years ago, I was really studying businesses to buy 3-4 years ago. And then I saw all the mistakes they were making. So I said, wow, okay, I got 3 or 4 of these mistakes too. I got some problems here. I got to shore
Yeah.
these up. And once you know that, you can get so much more value for your business. But I sold stuff in the past, a landscaping thing. Like you sell it for I was impatient too. Like I get rid of this at
Yes.
the end of the year.
Yep.
So when I look back, I mean, it might have been 50 cents on the dollar,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah. It happens, and I want to address something that I hear a lot, which is I don't think my business will sell, right? Here's what I know for a fact is that every business it has the potential to sell, right? And the corresponding writer on that comment is that means that every business owner has the potential to be free. That's why we're playing the game. Let's be clear with everybody that's watching this. The only reason why you're going through this brain and surgery that we call owning a business is so that someday you don't have to answer to anybody else, be neighbors with somebody else that you don't want to be, and you have choice. That is the only reason to play this game. And if we're playing it for anything other reason, impressing people on Instagram who don't like you and don't believe your bullshit anyway, right? If you're playing it for any other reason, then as Keith Cunningham always tells me, you are running really hard in the wrong direction. Right? For those people who know who Keith Cunningham is, he's the Real Rich Dad in the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I was blessed to sit at his right hand as he was as my mentor for 10 years. And so if you understand that's your outcome, well, then you have to name it. What is my freedom number? Is it $2 million in an account spinning off 10% that puts, 100 grand I don't have to work for the rest of my life? That's your target. Then every penny that you get is not to go buy another truck or to go move into another house that you're trying to impress people with or drive another. It's about freedom, right? And until then, and in our rescues, Pastor Rudy told me something one time. He said, a slave will never free another slave, right? A slave cannot free another slave. And so it's the same way. We're actually slaves until we're not. Or at least, I mean, if you don't like the word slave, we're indentured servants because we have to show up and make that money to pay our house bill, to pay for the kids, to pay for that. All we're trying to do with a business, the only outcome is to get rid of the have to. That's it. And so if you understand that, then you can reverse engineer to where you are and figure out how to hit that number. And that you understand it's not profit. It's not even operating cash flow. It's free cash flow. Free cash flow I could pull off the table, put aside, and it's building up. Every time I do that, I'm getting one step closer to my freedom, right? And the 3 things that you have to control in that deal are price, timing, and terms, right? Those are the 3 things that you got to get good at if you're going to have that type of an exit. And a lot of people come to me and they want to exit they get their time back. That's also good. I did that for a lot of times. I have 9 of those businesses right now that are cash flowing entities that I don't run, but I exited those as I built them up and then exited to get my time back. I love the cash flow. They're all prepped up, ready to go. Because if you optimize for cash flow, correspondingly, you've accidentally set it up for an exit.
Absolutely.
Right. So anybody wants to buy them, they're ready. I'm not my business. My business is not me. They're not my babies. They're not my babies.
Yeah.
They are businesses. They are machines that create cash that cash does the things I'm passionate about and for.
I love that they're not your babies, because the first one, everybody treats it like their baby. And it's like I know that feeling. Your personality, your whole self-worth is almost interweaved into it. And it's really
Yes.
not. You got to look at it. You're just creating a cash register to print out cash for you. And exactly, if you optimize it for cash flow where you're not there, where it's making money, everything, you have built a business that somebody else will want to pay top dollar for.
Amen.
I love the idea that the checks. I had a friend years ago, and he was adamant about that. He's like, you have to write a number. What's the number? And if that means you make 5% after taxes, if it's 10 million, then you got 500,000 coming in, you do whatever the hell you want. If that's what your number is. And I wrote a thing down. I had it on the corner of my laptop. I used to look at it every morning, and I end
Mm,
up passing it, right? But I used to ask myself, because we're entrepreneurs, we're all over the place. I got ADHD. I used to look and say, is what I'm doing right now helping me get to this number? Because what else am I doing it for?
right.
Like, what am I doing to get to if everything aligned with that thing? When you get super focused on that, you can get there. It's no different
Amen.
than if you're going to drive from Atlanta to New York City. Don't you want to have a map and a plan going, or are you just going to like, well, I just go north? You
Right.
probably get there, but I don't know when you're going to get there. I want to get there
Yeah.
direct. I don't want to be stopping off and going down the wrong places. So tell us about I don't know if you have that image. I love your image. I'm a visual guy. So tell us about how you do it for companies. How can they step in? What kind of support, like how does it work? And what is
Yeah.
your, maybe an avatar? What's a company, who have you done it with where they were here, and then kind of a time frame on what they do? I love this.
You can see this.
Yeah. Mount
Cool.
Everest.
So I use it as a climb. And a lot of people think I don't want to climb. Well, you're climbing anyway. Whether you want to admit it or not, you are on a climb. If you own a business, and everybody that I know identifies with the fact that, yeah, shit, it feels like it's an uphill battle, right? You hear that a lot. And so this is an actual picture of Mount Everest. And you see that scan and aim, that's like Camp Zero, right? That's, if you imagine like that base camp, if you're coming up from the Nepal side, that's not for nothing. That's a 17,000 foot climb. And if there's 33 million small and mid-sized business owners in this country, about 30 million of them are on their way up to base camp. They're not ready to talk to us yet. They can learn and they can start that process and watch this video and take, oh, everybody exits, I'm going to start planning for that. But by the time you get to there, you've built a company that has about $500,000 of EBITDA, right? Everybody should stop talking about how much top line revenue they have. It's
Yeah,
to
doesn't matter.
those that know, it's the least important number on the face of the planet. Okay. And a lot of time it's just a vanity number, right? It's just like, oh, look at me, I'm doing 10 million. Oh, but it's costing you 12 to do it. and
Yep.
and by the way, you're gonna have a heart attack. And by the way, your kids hate you. And by the way, your wife is cheating on you. You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
And it's all heavy in materials and subs. It means nothing.
It means
Only
nothing.
thing that
So
matters is EBITDA.
is EBITDA. It's EBITDA, EBITDA, EBITDA. So by the time you get here, now you've got $500,000. You've got some people on your team. You've been in business for a few years. You've got some, customers that are in the tech, or at least you've got a system that's so now you have some predictability, and that, narrows it down to about 3 million companies, right? There's a number I want everybody to hear. And I'm going to stop sharing just so that they hear this number. In the next 10 years, 6 million businesses are going to change hands. 6 million. Okay. That means that if you finally understand that perspective, everybody exits how it matters. You start to think about that. You go, okay, well, every business can exit, which means that every business owner has the potential to be free. Now you start thinking about that going, okay, there's going to be 6 million of these. My opinion is about 3 million of them are just going to evaporate and disappear because of AI and, those kinds of things that people refuse to step in and start adding this technology. I don't care what size of business you have. Another subject for another day, but about 3 million of those are going to disappear. So what we did was we reverse engineered and we said, okay, out of that 6 million, what we're looking for. So that means that there's, so let's say 3 million people that are sitting at that base camp level that have a business that now could be ready to go. The very first step that we take people through is we do an analysis. And a lot of people that are in consulting and whatnot, we have a lot of consultants that we've certified in to be strategists for us and whatnot. There's some very good consultants out there, but there's also 80% of them that suck, and they're not good at what they do. And so you're wasting not only money, you're wasting time, and also you're risking getting the wrong advice at the wrong time, which could put you out of business just as fast as not knowing anything. And so what we do is we go through this assessment, and we've got two ways to do it: a 13-week process or a 3-day process, and it's just a price difference between the two. But we go through and we scan everything. And it's not just from a perspective of we're going to get your financials and see where you're at. That's important, but it's about an eighth of the process that you need to know. We need to know your customer base, relationships to employees. We need to know your outlook on what the industry. We need to look at trends. We need to look at all that stuff. That gives us a report of exactly where you are. And then the next most important conversation is aim. What are you specifically trying to do? So if we find out, okay, you got $500,000 EBITDA, your outcome, your aim for you to be able to retire and get that freedom is $10 million in your pocket. Well, okay, then we need to get this thing to, 3 million, at least $3 to $4 million in EBITDA, right? If we climb that a little bit higher, because you're at about a 3 to 4 times multiple until you get to a $5 million EBITDA, $5 million EBITDA. Now you go to 6 to 12. Right? These are things I'm throwing a lot of information out, but there is a methodology. Remember what I said earlier, buyers have a code. That's all I'm doing is I'm telling you the code, not Jason Sisneros' opinion. I'm telling you the code. And so we get all of those things in line, and then we know where you are, where you want to go. And that then informs the delta of what needs to be built and what needs to happen to be able to get there. If somebody has a $500,000 EBITDA and they come to me and say, I want to sell for $1 billion. Okay, when you get done smoking the ganja, get back to me,
Yeah.
But when we have a reasonable, because there's two ways to go about hitting a $5 million EBITDA. One is growing in your geographic location by doing all the right things and taking out your competition. Second way is through acquisitions, acquiring different businesses and then bumping that up to 5 million, where then you have a potential of $50 million sale. So that's where you have to start. And if you don't get those two pieces of information, you're wandering. It's like flying an airplane blindfolded. It's like wandering around the Mount Everest without a Sherpa and with a blindfold on. Until you get those two pieces of information, you can't start. And so then the next phase is you build out what that is. Now, do you have a team that can help you or do you not? If you don't, we'll help. If you do, we'll also help, but maybe it's a monthly thing instead of a weekly thing. And maybe it's a quarterly thing. We have all those stories. Bada Fulkerson out of San Diego, which you can look on my LinkedIn and see what he said about his experience, or go to my podcast, Built to Exit, and watch the episode I did with Dan Fulkerson. When I found him, he had 5 employees, a law firm out of San Diego called Bada Fulkerson, and he thought he knew everything. He says it in the video. I'm not, you can go watch it for yourself.
Yeah.
So I thought I knew everything, but I liked Jason. I trusted enough to bring him in. We came in 18 months later. He's $100 million business. He's $100 million business. Not only that, but now people can buy a private equity firm. A non-lawyer can now buy law firms. Started in Arizona. It's going to, make its way. He has the potential to do a $300 million exit when that happens in the next few years. But the most important thing, he is passionate about rescuing bulldogs, and he does that to use as a big chunk of his time because he's not needed in the law firm anymore. Right? One of the big indicators of whether you're sellable or not is whether you're needed in the business. And so not only that, but he started 4 other businesses that are now successful on the same blueprint that we helped him build. I didn't get any part of those. I told him I was a little jealous that he should probably owe me a little commission, but but the point is, once you learn the magic trick, you don't need the magician. And this is the magic trick, staring people in the face, that I had to learn over all the time that I did it. Next phase is something called proof. And that's really where you take the business owner from being a great roofer and train him or her on the exact steps of what's going to happen when you're sitting down at the closing table, so that they don't blow their deal. We got to get rid of arrogance, ignorance, impatience, and the wrong team in that phase. Now you go to Horizon. Horizon is very important because of the 7% that sell, half of those fall apart. And the reason is because the business owner is ignorant about what is going to come next, if you are not solidly attached to the fact that you're going to go sail the seven seas, you're going to start a charity, you're going to buy another business, you're going to do whatever, then you will unconsciously, subconsciously tank the deal. You'll
Sabotage
go to
it.
dinner with the buyers. You'll drink too much
Wow.
tequila. You'll call them an asshole. You know what I mean? You'll tank the deal. And so we go through that one little, it's a short 6 weeks that we take them through to get them attached to that. And then we hand it over to our brokerage. And our brokerage does business a little bit different. Number one, we're half the price. We're 6%, where the average in the industry is 12 to 15. That's number one. And the reason that is because I want 600 businesses to go through it. I'm not, if this business went away, Kevin, my wife and I are fine. This is a passion play for me. So that's why some of our prices are better than others in the industry. We hand it over to our brokerage, and the brokerage, we also have relationships with about 250 private equity firms and a lot of relationships with investors, family offices. We start selling the business sometime around the end of build. We know that we're done with build when the owner is no longer necessary. Okay. We start marketing it. 90% of the deals that we do in our brokerage never see the open market because it's a shit show out there. We've already sold it, at least to the person. And then secondarily, we know the two biggest competitors. So you have three people that are fighting over your business instead of one who is controlling price, timing, and terms and bullying you, extending the due diligence period to a year, driving
Changing
down
it
the
up.
price, putting earnouts in place, never paying you, all that we get rid of all of that. And so that's our journey. And then you get your level of freedom. And we hope you're going to help us in the owner syndicate or go on to start your own charity, or I'm going to knock on your door and ask for, some kind of a donation for rescuing kids. That's our journey.
That was enlightening. I mean, you have to I love that you have to have a number and you have to have a reason why. This is crazy. There's a guy in my blue collar millionaire group. He's a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention anything. He knows who I'm talking about. He just sabotaged a massive deal.
Yep.
It was set to close last year in December, and he just kept going. The last conversation, I said, "What are you doing?" And he just was telling me all kinds of reasons why he wants to keep it and this, and he's kind of going through divorce. He's trying to well, I go through this, I got to keep this thing. I get it. It might sound crazy to people. He's sabotaging that deal. Doesn't mean he won't go do it again, but you have to have a reason why you're doing it. You have a number, and you just lined up, and everybody has to be aligned with that.
Yeah. It's not Jason Sisneros' opinion. Like, I hate people's opinions and people that read somebody's book or went to a weekend seminar on how to flip businesses and shit. It is not my opinion. It is methodical and exactly because the buyer market is not set up for, it's not set up for the seller to win. It's not set up that way. They have their code, and all I did was flip it over to make it my code. And that's the code that we teach to people, and everybody can learn it. And you have to have the discipline. You have to have the humility. That's why 600 for us, not 60,000, is 600. Because I know not everybody's in, not mentally, but emotionally, spiritually, maybe all of them, capable of the transformation that it needs to take, that it has to take, because where you are right now, money, relationship, health, all of that is because of the decisions that you've been making. And if it's not where you want to be, you have to learn something new, which you have to drop your I know everything tough guy act, right? You're not scaring anybody. So, I train, I do rescues with scary men and scary women. Like, your big tough guy act is not scaring anybody. So humble yourself. When I sit and do these, I'm extremely humble when I'm learning something new, because I know I don't know it. And I know that there's something on the other side that's going to benefit me, my family, and the people that I hate bullies. So anything I can do to strengthen my position to be able to fight bullies, that's what I'm going to do.
So much good info here. Jason, if people want to do this, how do they reach out? And then how does it work? They get on a call with your team and they start kind of giving they're going to ask them where they are, and you're going to start that process. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach out to info@builttoexit.biz, and that's BUILTTOEXIT.biz. And we'll probably, if I can get you a QR code or something, it'll make it easier for people to scan.
Well,
But
I'll put it in the comments.
yeah, cool. We'll get you the QR code and just reach out and have a conversation. You know, we're not good at funnels, and we've built our business on reputation and referrals. That's why
Yeah,
you and I are on this call, right?
absolutely.
And we've never spent a dime on advertising. We just don't play that game because we know that the right people will find us. And we say no to more people than we say yes to, because they're just not there. They're not there, and they're not ready for it in the headspace.
Everybody, and we were going with the text yesterday, and that exactly what I know. And for this community, I'm so protective of it. I only bring in people I know, like, and trust. Every
Yes.
day, you can imagine. I mean, every day, multiple people are like, "Hey, Kevin, love your group. Blah blah blah. Can I sell this? Can I
Yeah.
extract money
Right.
from people all
Yes.
day?" And
Yes.
I want to put the right people. I've done it. We talk about Jonathan Federa. Like, I know when he gets on the phone with people, he's going to be straight. He's going to shoot them straight, no matter what it is. It might not be something they like to hear. I want guys like that. The same thing all you're saying is here is you can't, if you're at 500,000 EBITDA, you're not selling for $1 billion. Just stop that. But
Yeah.
you get to 3 million in EBITDA? Yeah,
Yeah.
here's a path, and we'll do it. And the other thing about this is what I love. If you grew up playing sports, a lot of you, like, was as we get older, we learn how to play sports better, right? But then you get to a point where your body can't do the same thing. It's super frustrating. Business is
Yes.
the opposite. You get better at it. And this is what I would do if I was young. I was arrogant. I should have got around guys like us, older guys who had done it, grinded. I was grinding anyway, learned, shut my mouth, got an exit early. Now I know a lot of stuff, then go to do it again. So anybody who does this with you, not only are they going to make a lot of money, they now have this, they know how to do stuff.
Right.
They know exactly how to do it again if they choose to. And we've seen probably so many, we haven't talked about that, but we both know lots of guys who do this over and over. It's fun. If you
Yes.
hit a
It is
home
fun.
run, yeah, you don't, like, some people, maybe they want to just go in the dugout and hang out and not do anything. I want to hit more home runs. And
Yeah. And you get the code when you learn the code to hitting a home run every time you step up to bat,
every
it
time,
becomes fun, right?
not once a season. Yeah, because it's actually
Yeah.
likely. You're like, I think I'm gonna put this into the woods right here. And that's a
Exactly.
great
Well,
feeling.
what you said, like, because as we get older, we get better at it. It's because we learn at some point in time that business is an intellectual sport.
Yeah.
It's not an emotional sport. It's not a tough guy sport. It's not a tough girl sport. It's not outlasting, out hustling, out grinding. It is an intellectual sport, which means that you need to learn the smart way to be able to achieve the outcome that you specifically have, and stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Business is not a bathrobe. One size does not fit all. Another Keith Cunningham ism,
Yeah.
right? It's unique to you, your exit. There's a lot of things about business that are the same in the fundamentals, but you're doing it for some reason for yourself. And if you can't articulate that, you are wandering in the woods and destined to be one of the involuntary exits.
That's the number one, Kate. You are going to exit. It's going to happen no matter what you want to be. Do you want to be part of that 6 million? How many are going to change hands?
6 million in the next
Six
10 years.
million. Where do you want to
Yep.
be in that? It's going to happen. Where do you want to be on it?
Amen.
But what and the last part was the attorney. I think that what's shocking to people is if you really have a plan and you really follow the right people, and then you got to do the work, you got to implement it. And he did.
Yep.
This isn't like, oh, it took 17 years. It's you can go much faster if you're driving in a straight line. You have all the information. And I'm 100% with you. That's the hardest realization for people is where you are in relationships, financially, health-wise. It's all the decisions you made. What it didn't happen. It's nothing to do with what you did last 2 weeks. Nothing.
Yep.
It's what you did over the last 10 years and whatever. So if you're there, it's like when people say, "Oh, I know how to get in great shape." Then we're in great shape. You might be able to write it down, but you don't know all the things, the discipline, all these things to do it, or you would already be in great shape. Who wouldn't want to be? Same thing with
Yeah.
financially. When people are like, I don't care about money. I I don't believe that you don't want to be in a financial space where if a family member got cancer, you can't take care of it. I have a great friend. He had a $14 million exit 10 years ago. He spent $2.2 million on something really unique that's horrible for his daughter. And he's had major progress. What the hell is he going to do if he was not doing that? It's people make it up. Oh, I don't care about it. You care about it. Why
I care
not?
about it.
Why not do it with you don't have to do anything shady or anything. Do the right things. Put people in the right place and win. Work smart. Working hard is inevitable. We all do it anyway. Work
Yeah.
smart. Need a plan.
Business is an intellectual game, baby.
I
What a
love it.
great interview, man. This was so much fun.
I know this is so much fun. I love doing it. We got to do it again. I think it's going to be people really love watching it. And then we got to get connected in person. Where are you going to be over the next couple months? Maybe we can figure something out.
You tell me where you want me to be, brother. I'm free. I can be anywhere
I'll tell you
anytime.
one. I'm gonna be, and Jonathan might come. I just told him yesterday. I'm gonna be doing a small event up in Chicago for Boardroom Elite members, um, and that's gonna be July 17th and 18th, like out by the Riverwalk, and do a dinner and go on a boat and talking at the hotel like in a conference room and if that works for you, that'd be incredible. Um, I'm gonna do a suite at the Atlanta Braves. Um, I haven't picked that yet. That's probably going to be in June, even before then, but I might do two, like 35 people. I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, just good people, and do something like that and a dinner and everything like that. And I'm all about hanging out and just connecting like that. And then you tell me, when are you speaking next?
I'll be in Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona on May 6th, which is next Thursday, for the Forge event.
My girlfriend she just came back from Scottsdale. She went to Lake Powell and she went with her friend and she's like, we got to go. We're gonna bring my son and everything. But she just got back last weekend. But
Yeah,
Scottsdale's cool. What's after
Scottsdale's cool.
Scottsdale? Otherwise, I'd line it up.
Yeah, Scottsdale, and then we've got let's see, Mach 5 we've got in Houston right after that. I'd have to go back and look at my calendar. I've done 40 events since July, bro. Like,
Oh my
I'm
God.
I'm
You gotta
somewhere all
send
the
me
time.
just a schedule and I'll do it. Because I'd love to do it like come out, see you speak,
Yeah.
um, connect with you, and then I'll make it, for my own. I'll bring her and my son. I'll make a little like I like going to Houston, Scottsdale, anything. We always doing these little trips. I'm sure you're doing them too. It's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
you have this event, but you're doing other stuff while you're doing it. It's fun.
Yeah, next
I just really
Thursday is I just remembered. Next Thursday I'm in Scottsdale. I take a red eye for the next day. I'll be down in Miami, and then I take a red eye from there to New Jersey. And New Jersey is a grand opening of one of our dispensaries.
I'm from New Jersey, man. I go down 7, 8 times a year. My mom's
Atlantic
there.
City. Atlantic City. One of
When are you
we
doing
just
that?
That's next. So the 6th is Scottsdale, the 7th is Miami, the 8th is Atlantic City.
Wow. Bang, bang, bang. You're doing a bunch.
Yeah, we had
Always
Mike Tyson
traveling.
show up. I don't know if you saw the pictures, but we had Mike Tyson come into
Did to
the
Atlantic
soft
City?
opening. What's that?
To Atlantic City?
Yeah,
Oh,
he came into it because he's got a product in the cannabis space, and it's ear bites gummies. Remember when he bit off Holyfield's ear?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They turned it into, so he came
He
in and did some promo at our location. It was great. He was a unbelievable human being.
he He's a great guy. I grew up in a town called Basking Ridge, and the town next to it was Burnettsville. And in the mountains, he got a house there when he was the heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
And we people would like see him at Dairy Queen, and it would be crazy. But a couple of my buddies rode their bikes up to his house. There's no Google or anything back then, 1988 or something. They
Right.
found his house. The gate was open. They rode up. They knocked on the door, ballsy. Robin Givens, he was married to, came out, said, "What the hell are you guys doing here? Get out of here. You're not allowed up here." They walk out. Mike Tyson came out. And one of my friends was a state champ wrestler. He was a big kid with the wrestling thing on. And him and Tyson were wrestling in the front yard. It's like
Wow.
he said, they were like, they
He's
came to
so
school,
cool.
and everybody believed it because we all had seen him at Dairy Queen or Friendlies a couple times. And he was a cool guy, and he used to buy
Yeah.
people's ice cream. And when they heard the story, we were just, imagine you just like, you're wrestling with Mike Tyson, the heavyweight champ. He's just a great guy.
He's just a great guy. Yeah. We have one of our screens, and it's Rolling Green in New Jersey. If anybody has cannabis needs when they're there, please look us up. But we have this screen. It's 12 foot by 100 or 12 foot by 149 feet. It's a huge screen. And so our team the night before was like, before he got there, the team was like, yeah, let's put up a reel of his best knockouts and stuff, you know? And we got done at the end of the day, and I'm like, you know, we're going to take that down. And all I want to see up there is pigeons, because he's big into pigeons. Right. And so we
Yeah,
brought him
yeah.
in. We've got this video all over my social, but comes in, shakes my hand. I'm taking him, giving him a tour around, and we get to the big screen, and he looks up there and he looks at me, he goes, "Hey, Jathan, those pigeons are the good idea, man." I was like, yes, we got that one right. That's pretty
Good,
badass.
good. Another thing, Jason, I have in this group called Boardroom Elite, there's like 30 of us guys. They all want to exit the right way. I'd love to have you come on. That's virtual. That's who that group is for in Chicago. But if you want to come on virtually, and talk and talk about what you're doing for companies, that would be great.
So give me the
That
date in June.
avatar's right there. Huh?
Yeah, give me the date in June. I'll be there.
That's July 17th, 18th.
July 17. I'm there. Just go ahead and
Okay.
consider me there. The June I
Awesome.
don't know, because I've got I don't know my schedule for June, but you give me the date for that, and then if you want me on anything virtually, I love what you're doing, brother. There's very few people in the world that are genuinely trying to help their community, and you are a rarity. And I watch. I
You
mean,
should go.
you know, I was trying to make comments and add value and do stuff like that, and you
Yeah,
had
no,
it
you can.
blocked, right? Like you protect your people. Not only do you educate and you feed into them, and you nurture them, but you also protect them from a bunch of people. And I admire the hell out of that. So anything that you're associated with, bro, I'm in.
All right. I'll shoot you the dates on a text, and then the elite thing is on Thursday, 2 p.m. You pick a day that works for you, that when it works your schedule and you come on. It's super simple. We'll send you a Zoom link. It'd be like this, but we'll all be on there listening. And then you do your thing, tell your story, and then just like this, and it'll be great for content too. Because I
Love
think
it.
people are really going to connect with this. So I love the content.
Love it,
Making
brother.
good
Well, thanks
content.
for having me on,
Let's
brother.
definitely.
Thanks for the trust. And Jonathan, if you're watching, I know you are. Good job. High five. Brother from another mother here.
Good connection.
And
Absolutely.
finally,
All
we
right, Jason.
finally got him to shave his head.
I know. I was just looking at him yesterday on the call. I said he looks so much better. It looks good.
So much better. So much better. Yeah, I've been busting his balls for a couple years going, just get rid of it, bro. Just get rid of it.
I know. I'm sure he was doing what we were all doing. Like you spent like, looking at it all day. Once it's gone, who cares? It's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You're
the
in
thing.
denial. Right. And then one
Yeah.
day you go, oh, God only made a few perfect heads. He put hair on the rest of them.
Yeah. All right,
All right, my
Jason.
man. Thank
All
you,
right, I'll
brother.
talk to you.